Hello, how's it going, everyone? Today we're gonna try it without the green screen, see if it's any better. But let me get the text up, and we can get going. Notice I'm not biting more than I can chew this time. Just doing one chapter. Let me see if we're lagging here. I don't think we should be lagging, but let's see. Okay, we're good. Camera's a bit out of focus. All right, let's get the audio on. Okay. All right, let's jump into this. Chapter 14 of Revelation. Revelation has been intense. It's been honestly, it hasn't been satisfying, because usually what we've been doing is we're asking questions, then we're answering those questions to the best of our ability, but at least we're getting some answers. Now, I'm asking questions, and I don't know what the answers are. Sometimes I don't even know which questions to ask, because there's so many moving parts in Revelation. There's so much symbolism and imagery. It's hard to get the full picture, right? But like I said before, we're just running through the book, and we'll do separate videos focusing on each individual subject in detail. And then maybe once we get that, we can start putting the pieces together and getting the full picture. So the whole idea of this is to at least try and get a holistic view of what the book of Revelation is about as we're going through. Maybe get some questions in line so that when we do go back, we know what to focus on. So let's jump into this. Chapter 14. Get the volume up.
Then I looked, and behold, a Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, like the voice of many waters.
So just like the 666, this is a different thing. Then I looked, and behold, a Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000. We touched on the 144,000 earlier, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. Let me see if my Bible says anything about this. Mount Zion is a synonym for the earthly Jerusalem, right? We know that. Focusing on the hill where the temple was built. There is some difficulty in deciding whether this is a reference to the earthly or to the heavenly Mount Zion. The 144,000 have God's name written on their foreheads instead of the name of the beast. In chapter 7, verse 2-4, the protection for this group is referred to as a seal. We talked about that. On their foreheads, and also, on their foreheads, right? This is intended to be a contrast to the mark of the beast, or it may be a sign visible only in heaven and in the new earth and heaven. That latter bit depends on the interpretation of Mount Zion.
And like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. They sang as it were a new song before the throne. before the 4 living creatures and the elders, and no one could learn.
Okay, before the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders that we talked about earlier, that was before the throne of God. So, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, I can see why people would think that we are talking about a heavenly Zion and not an earthly Zion. A lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven like the voice of many waters. We heard this prior in John's vision also. The rumbling of the waters, a voice like that, and the voice of loud thunder. I believe Ezekiel also described God's voice in a similar way. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. They sang as if it were a new song before the throne, before the living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. Redeemed from the earth, therefore they're not part of the earth. They're in heaven, which makes sense. So Mount Zion, probably this is a heavenly Zion. And they are before the throne of God, which is why they are seeing the 4 living creatures and the elders. That would make sense to me. What do you guys think?
That song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. These are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no deceit, for they are without fault before the throne of God.
So the 144,000 are virgins. They have put God as their priority. That's it. Paul talked about this, how he would sort of recommend the idea, if you can, don't get married and put God as your number one. Because he was talking about how like if a woman were to get married, she would have to take care of the husband, take care of her kids. She would have housely duties, earthly duties to fulfill. And what is that doing? That is distracting her from God. Not that those are bad things, but I mean, there's only so much time in a day, you know. So it looks like these 144,000, one of the criteria, or at least one of the characteristics of these 144,000, is that they have set apart everything else and have put God first. That's it. That is no wonder it's only 100. If we're taking the literal number, no wonder it's only 144,000. Because not many people are going to be able to do that. They have absolutely no distraction.
God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no deceit, for they are without fault before the throne of God. Then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice,
"Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and springs of water."
And another angel followed.
Babylon is fallen, that great city.
So are these angels flying over and ministering to the people on earth? Then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on earth. So is the 144,000 already in heaven while they are those on earth?
Because she has made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice,
"If anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation." He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest, day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name.
Okay. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest, day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. So, if the smoke ascends forever and ever, does that mean that they will be burning continually, or is the smoke ascending forever and ever and there's no ceiling? Yeah, does this mean like this is an eternal punishment? An eternal burning? Let me see. Let's pull up a commentary. Let's do somewhere around 9, right? He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. This shows that the suffering of hell is real torment, that it is painful and repulsive. The modern vogue for dispensing with hell has no counterpart in Revelation. In the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, this shows that God is not absent from hell. Or does it mean that they are able to watch? They are able to see. He is present in all holiness and righteous judgment. Those who are in who are in hell will wish God were absent, but he will not be. It is wrong to say that hell will be devoid of the presence of God, but it will be without any sense of his love. The presence of Jesus will be there, but only the presence of his holy justice and wrath against sin. The smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night. Those who worship the Antichrist and receive his mark will endure this wrath and indignation for eternity in hell. I mean, that would be the most immediate interpretation of this. But I don't know if I would interpret it, if I am interpreting it that way, because you hear that, right? Eternal punishment, the eternal burning. The smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day and night. So we know it's a continual punishment, no rest day and night. But something can burn for 5 seconds, and then that smoke that was burnt for 5 seconds, the smoke just ascends forever and ever. That doesn't mean that they're continuing to burn forever and ever, right? But it does say they have no rest day or night. So that does add the continual. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean for eternity. But I guess the simplest explanation would be they're burning for eternity continually. What do you guys think? Because I've heard the argument that God wouldn't allow his creation to suffer like that for eternity. Here, the fact of eternal torment is plainly stated. Forever and ever means forever and ever. If the only consequences for sin are in this life, or if the only penalty for sin is temporary, then clever sinners have won out over God. How? You're still dead. If you, depending on which side of the interpretation you lean towards. If you lean towards an eternal punishment, or if you lean towards a not eternal punishment, but a complete one in the sense that you're burned, you're dead, that's it, you're gone. So it's not like, hey, I lucked out. I won out over God because the punishment is only temporary and now I'm fine. No, you'll be burnt to crisp. You're dead. And then that's it. Or you're burning eternally. I'm not sure. I guess I would lean to burning eternally from this. But what do you guys think? If the only consequences for sin are in this life, or if the only penalty for sin is temporary, yeah, the consequences are not only in this life. It's not in this life. It is the end of this life. So once you pay the consequence, that's it. You're dead. From that point of view. Or if the only penalty for sin is temporary, then clever sinners have won out over God. It seems like this commentary is saying that, hey, we'll get burnt if you... this is saying that... it seems like this commentary is saying that those who believe that it is not eternal believe that you'll get burnt up. After you get burnt up, you're fine. But I don't think that doesn't make sense to me. Why would they? Are there people who actually believe that? I don't know. Walvard says of the phrase forever and ever, literally into the ages of ages, the strongest expression of eternity of which the Greek is capable.
And ever, and they have no rest, day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name.
Here is the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
I guess that's why people have become so infatuated by the idea of the mark of the beast, because if you have the mark, that's it. You're done. So everybody wants to avoid that. In order to avoid it, you need to know what it is, right? I personally don't think you need to know what it is in order to avoid it, though. I would think that if you, like Jesus said, have the right perspective, see that big picture, keep your eye on the right goal, which is a relationship with Him, you're not going to be anywhere near that mark of the beast.
Then I heard a voice from heaven saying to me,
Right. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works follow them.
Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Because now the message has been spread, the people are aware. So blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, the Spirit says, that they may rest from their labors, and their works follow them. So they're at peace, they're at rest. They're dead in the Lord. And now that they're dead, they can't really do anything, but they've given their hearts to God, and now they're dead. So they can be at peace, because when Jesus comes again, they'll be resurrected and be saved. Is that what that's saying? Here is the patience of the saints. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on, that they may rest from their labors. We see the strong contrast between the rest of the saints and the continual torment of the wicked. The rest comes through patient endurance and faithfulness to God and His word. These are the only glorious dead. They die in the cause of God. They die under the smile and approbation of God. And they die to live and reign with God forever and ever. Their works follow them. The patient endurance and work of these saints is remembered in heaven. Our work for God and His kingdom goes with us into heaven, giving dignity and significance to all work here below. We talked about this. Jesus, I think, said, that there will be people who are set over in heaven depending on your acts on this earth. The Bible teaches that those who are saved will rule. The question is, who are we ruling? I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son, this day I have begotten thee. Is this the part? Is this what? I thought there was something in the New Testament as well. I mean, this is sort of a tangent, but I'm trying to find the text. Was this it? I'm not sure. I'll find it maybe and put it in the description if I can find it.
Who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors and their works follow them.
Then I looked, and behold, a white...
But from what I remember, there is going to be some sort of hierarchy in heaven. Like that parable Jesus said, you know, when he gave the master gave like some coins or something, and to each of his servants, and the one who did more with the money, he was given more responsibility. So like that, Jesus will give us responsibility in heaven. I remember something like that.
Cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle.
Sickle?
And another angel came out of the temple.
Because he's reaping the harvest? Is that why?
Crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud.
Thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe.
So he who sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. Then another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven.
Okay, here's another question. Do you think that Jesus is literally going to be sitting on a cloud with a giant sickle and is going to be reaping those of us on earth? Reaping the harvest of the three angels' message? What do you think? Because probably not, right? It's probably not. You're probably not supposed to take that literally. But then how do you know what to take literally and what not to take literally? Like the descriptions of the demon locusts looking creatures, are you supposed to take that literally or not literally? I think that's why, another reason why Revelation is such a, I don't want to say controversial book, but probably maybe a misunderstood book. You know, there's so many different interpretations of what's going on in Revelation, because it's a lot of imagery, and then maybe to some they don't view it as imagery. They might be taking this literally, you know. And who knows who's right? I don't know.
Then another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, who had power over fire, And he cried with a loud cry to him who had the sharp sickle.
Thrust in your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe.
So the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trampled outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the horses' bridles for 1,600 furlongs.
What are furlongs? So Jesus reaped the harvest. Those believers, and this angel is gathering those for punishment. Some find it difficult to see Jesus as the one gathering the harvest here. I mean, literally says Son of Man. They have a hard time with Jesus responding to another angel who came out of the temple, but it is unlikely that anyone called the Son of Man and wearing a golden crown is anyone but Jesus, right? I mean, I guess they probably don't like the idea of, like, let me see what it exactly said. Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one, like the Son of Man, having his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him, "Thrust in your sickle and reap." So maybe people don't like the idea of an angel telling Jesus something and then Jesus listening. But even kings have advisors. Even kings, I don't think Jesus has an ego where he wouldn't listen to anybody. And it's not like, hey, he's obeying an order or anything like that, you know? Like, if you have a scout that goes out and comes back to the general and says, hey, that's where all the enemies are, and that's where we need to be going because, you know, whatever, that's where they are, the bad guys are. The general is not obeying the scout. The scout served his purpose. The general is serving his purpose. You see what I'm saying? So just because Jesus did what the angel said doesn't necessarily mean that Jesus is obeying the angel or anything like that. So they say they have a hard time with Jesus responding to another angel who came out of the temple. Okay, so having on his head a golden crown. How different it will be to see him with the crown of gold upon his head from what it was to see him wearing that terrible crown of thorns. Yeah. This ancient Greek word for ripe has a negative sense. For the harvest of the earth is ripe. To become dry or withered. The idea is of something that is overripe. This means that God will judge the earth only when it is overripe for judgment. He doesn't rush into judgment. Okay, so this is not a harvest of the believers. Or it could be, he is going to wait past the due date to ensure that everybody's had enough time to know about him. And it's overripe for judgment. Maybe giving them chance after chance after chance after chance until there's nothing much left else to do. To ensure, you know, just like he did in the Old Testament, prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet, to the point where he's like, okay, that's it. I've done every single thing that I could do. Judgment time. It must be remembered that evil has its harvest as well as good. There is a harvest of misery and woe, a harvest for the gathering, binding, and burning of the trees, of the tares, as well as for the gathering of the wheat into the garner of heaven. Another angel came out of the altar who had power over fire. These allusions seem to indicate that the angel is acting in response to the prayers of the saints for divine judgment on the wickedness, right? Because Jesus said at that point when they were asking, Jesus said, still more need to die. It looks like maybe now is the time. The great winepress of the wrath of God. This vivid picture of judgment was the inspiration for the battle hymn of the Republic. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vineyard where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. So the second coming of Jesus, the image of the second coming of Jesus as a harvest is also communicated in Matthew 13 with the parable of the wheat and the tares. The implication is that true believers will not be separated from those who merely go to church until the final harvest. Fully ripe pictures grapes fully grown in the prime, almost bursting with juice. The spurting of the grape juice from under the bare feet of those treading the grapes in the winepress is compared to the spurting of blood and speaks of the awful human carnage. What strength have grapes against the weight and power of a man when he comes to set his feet upon them? And the riper they are, the more helpless. The heel of omnipotence is upon them, and they can only break and sink beneath it. Blood came out of the winepress up to the horses' bridles for 1,600 furlongs. This probably describes blood splattering upon the horses' bridles, a picture of tremendous carnage in the Battle of Armageddon in Revelation 16. We didn't get to that yet, and 19. It is not likely. See, so looks like we're getting references to verses or chapters that we're not even at yet. So chronologically speaking, what is the order of events? Again, why I would love to have a visual aid. We'll probably look into that a bit later, like a timeline or something. It is not likely a description of a river of blood is running the length of the promised land, and as high as a horse's bridle. What is a horse's bridle? Okay. Bridles are the system of straps attached to the horse's head that are used to steer and stop the horse. So that's way up top. Okay. Oh, wait. I was looking at the commentary, wasn't I? It is not likely a description of a river of blood running the length of the promised land and as high as as a horse's bridle is. This would be an almost incomprehensible river of blood. Yeah. In ancient times, a battle area extending 1,600 furlongs, approximately 200 miles, there we go, that's what I was looking for, was beyond all known conflict, but not in modern warfare. The area covered 1,600 furlongs is approximately 200 miles and specifies that the area within a 200-mile radius from Jerusalem will be gathered at the time of the second coming of Christ. That's what it said? So the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and threw it into the winepress of the wrath of God. So I'm imagining these are the wicked because they're being judged right now. And the winepress was trampled outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the horses' bridles for 1,600 furlongs. The area covered 1,600 furlongs is approximately 200 miles and specifies that the area within a 200-mile radius from Jerusalem will be gathered at the time of the second coming of Christ. Would you guys agree with that interpretation? So the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth. And the winepress was trampled outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress upon the horses' bridles for 1,600 furlongs. Do you think that's where the gathering took place, or do you think that's just how much blood there was? But this vivid, powerful description shows how complete the judgment of God is. Revelation 14 is the perfect answer to Revelation 13. At the end of 13, it almost seemed like Satan and the Antichrist might win. But Revelation 14 shows who is really triumphant, powerful, and in control. God, his Messiah, and his people. Not Satan, his Messiah, the Antichrist, and his followers. Whew. I think this was easier to understand than 13. Who knows? Maybe I didn't understand this accurately. Maybe we can look at another Revelation 14 commentary. After an account of the great trials and sufferings which the servants of God had endured, we have now a more pleasant scene opening. The day begins now to dawn, and here we have presented the Lord Jesus at the head of his faithful followers. 2, 3 angels sent successfully to proclaim the fall of Babylon and the things antecedent and consequent to so great an event. 3, the vision of the harvest. Actually, I want to look more about the vision of the harvest. Who are we harvesting? Are we harvesting the faithful? Are we harvesting everybody? Are we harvesting the wicked? Where does that start at? 17. And then we'll stop after that. Let's look at Bible Hub so we can get multiple different commentaries. Comment. And what was it? 17, right? Well, let me see. 17. That's with the sickle. And another angel came. Thrust your sickle. Okay, we don't have to do that. So the angel. Okay, let's do 19. Let's see if that works. And the angel, the vine, the vintage of the vine, when gathered, is cast into the winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden without the city. And there came forth blood out of the winepress as far as the bridles of the horses, from 1,600 furlongs. The outflow of the blood of the grapes pressed reached over a distance of 600 stadia. The treading of the winepress was a figure representing vengeance. The red juice of the grape strongly suggested the shedding of blood. The winepresses stood usually outside the city. It is so represented here, not without an allusion to those who fall under the weight of this judgment, because they have refused the defense of the true city and sanctuary. The distance, 600 stadia, 4 multiplied into itself and then multiplied by 100, is symbolical of a judgment complete and full and reaching to all corners of the earth. So that's why the number 4 multiplied into itself. The whole world of which Satan is called the prince is judged and condemned and punished. And the vintage of the harvest. And the vintage and harvest is a piercing discrimination between the faithful fruit-bearing children of the king and the cowardly or selfish, whose hearts are for self and not for Christ, but who yield themselves servants to sin. This commentary also agrees that it is a harvest of the wicked to be judged. Makes sense because they were led to punishment. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, that is, into the part of the earth which might be represented by a vineyard, for the earth considered as having been the abode of wicked men. And also I want to look at the earth's harvest, 14. Maybe 16, 15, maybe 15. Let's do 15. What are we reaping here? That's my question. Why it's not going to it? And another angel, it has been asked, what harvest is this? Okay, so I'm not the only one asking that question. It is the gathering of the good seed. Okay, so this is exactly what I thought then. The full corn in the ear into the celestial garner. The angel who announces that the harvest is ready comes forth from the temple, the inner shrine, the holy place, which was measured off in the sanctuary of the faithful, whereas the angel who calls for the vintage comes forth from the altar. Okay, makes sense to me. There must be some difference between the vintage and the harvest. There is an autumn gladness about the harvest. There are tokens of judgment in the vintage. It is not the sharp sickle alone which is required. The winepress of God's wrath, is called into use. An angel from the temple calls to the Son of Man to reap the harvest. An angel from the altar calls to the angel from the temple to gather the vintage. The vintage symbolizes a harvest of judgment. Do not the words respecting Babylon come to the mind and confirm this? The angel rising from the altar beneath which the murdered saints had cried, "How long?" and proclaims the vintage, the hour of vengeance has come. And it is not without significance that the angel to whom this cry is addressed comes forth out of the temple, the safe sanctuary of God's faithful ones, as one who has witnessed their secret sorrows and sufferings and is fitted to recompense tribulation to the troublers of Israel. Okay, I agree with this interpretation. What do you guys think? Well, that's going to be it for today. Just under an hour. I mean, we started a little bit late, but under an hour. That's good. Yesterday's was really long. Day before was really long. I'm really dissatisfied with yesterday's because I left so many questions unanswered. But that just means we're going to have to go back into 13 and dive deeper and try and figure out what all the imagery, what all the symbolism means. But yeah, I feel better about 14. We asked some questions. We got some answers. It seems like our initial understanding of what was read seems to be an understanding that other people feel as well. So that's good. But let me know your thoughts, your opinions down below in the comment section. What did you think about Revelation 14? Let me know your ideas. Maybe you have different interpretations. Let me know. And that'll be it for today. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.